Station, where our veterans' voices are heard. MBR Talk.
Hey, thanks for supporting our channel by watching and listening.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
When life shapes us, when love anchors us, when loss changes us, we are not left behind. We are carried forward, held by faith, rooted in purpose, finding our way. This is Carried Forward, a space for stories of resilience, purpose, and forward resolve. Hi, welcome back to Carry Forward. Today, I'm having a special guest, a friend of mine, that is going to speak about Beauty from Ashes. Also talk a little bit about her story. All this conversation feels really close to home to me because Beauty for Ashes has been a special part of my life and helped me move forward. So I'm sitting down with my friend Paula, and she's a woman that's walked through deep loss, who now serves as a facilitator for Beauty from Ashes in New Braunfels, Texas. But they also have a program that's expanding. So if you're interested in helping widows, we'll talk to Paula a little bit more about that today too. We're going to talk about her story that she's walked through, what healing looked like for her or does look like for her, and how now she has transformed into helping other women walk and navigate through their own grief journeys. We'll talk about the upcoming Beauty for Ashes 5K on June 6th. This event supports the foundation, and also that generates support for widows in the local area and extending outside communities. I hope this conversation is not only about grief, but it also shows how grief can give us a shift in who we are. It helps shape us and give us purpose in other ways. And also it is just important how when we meet new people in our grief journey, that they do help us carry forward, even if it may not look like we anticipated it to. So, Paula, thank you for being here and welcome.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Paula is so gracious to talk to us a little bit about her own story today. If you would, can you share a little bit about your husband and a little of your story with everyone today?
Okay. Well, as with anybody and everybody, our stories are individual. My story is different from yours, and my story is different from, excuse me, our founder, Lori Bonning, as well. It's been almost 7 years for me. It started 7 years ago, May 5th, which is just on the horizon here. And I was living in the lower part of Texas when it took place, a little town called Harlingen. But anyway, it's just ordinary day on a Saturday. I was out, enjoying our weekend, and my husband and I had dinner at a Indian restaurant. He loved that soup that they serve, and it's that hot kind that I can hardly, stand to eat. But anyway, yeah, it's very hot. He likes to keep adding that stuff to it as well. But anyway, like I said, it was just our average weekend day. And then that night, him and I usually sit in front of the TV watching a movie or something with what he calls the boys. We had 3 dogs at the time. Went to bed. I usually go to bed 10:30. And, I go up there, I crawl in bed, and it's such a moment for me because I know my husband is sitting downstairs. I feel safe. Naturally we have the Lord, but there's something about having that second rock that is taking care of you. And that's what my husband was for me. But it took place around 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, which would be Sunday. I just remember some ruckus going on. And next thing I know, my husband's telling me, call an ambulance, call an ambulance. And the first thing I noticed anyway, I thought, why is he dressed still at this hour? He was fully clothed, even had shoes on. So I don't know if maybe he was having something going on. It took him that long to wake me, because maybe it intensely got worse. So I got up thinking everything was just maybe his gallbladder, because he had issues like that before. But anyway, to make a long story short, the ambulance came. He actually walked. It was a 2-story home. He walked down the stairs, right out the back door. They took him into the ambulance. And I am still fairly composed at that time. He's not in a gurney or anything like that. I'm even asking the guy that's got him in the ambulance, hey, I need my husband's keys. I can't get out of the, parking lot because his is parked behind mine and that kind of thing. I get the keys. Mitchell and I haven't even spoken at this point. We get to the hospital, which is very close from where I lived at the time, 5 minutes up the road. I'm sitting downstairs in the lobby, haven't heard anything from anybody.
Wow. And
this should have been a red flag, but a gentleman came and sat beside me in the lobby and was just telling me who he was. And I think he was trying to bring me comfort, but I thought that was just a normal protocol because we came in through the emergency room.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, I'm being ushered upstairs. She said, no one has spoke with you or anything? I said, no, ma'am. And I'm thinking that's Mitch sitting directly across from me, lying in that gurney. And it wasn't. They had already taken him up to the first floor. I get up there, still not aware of how crucial it was. Wow. Next thing, I hear code blue. Well, we all know what code blue means. And I noticed the guy that was there, he was a pastor from another church, kept looking at his text messages and stuff. And I just asked him, I said, code blue? I'm the only one up there in that room. I said, that can't be my husband. He said, yes, ma'am.
Oh, wow.
So I think initially from that time on, I was in shock.
Yeah.
Because once that code blue, he was gone.
Right.
So there was no
closure.
No closure.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I just remember him saying, do you want to see him? And I'm thinking to myself, what exactly is it I'm going to be seeing at this point?
Right. What?
So that's.
So yeah. It was just a complete out of the blue. Wow.
Yeah.
Completely. And,
yeah.
I can only imagine that's how shocking that would be, because I know you've told me a little bit about Mitch in a personal time. Like he was a jokester and
he loved to eat.
So and loved to eat, and even like people liking his Facebook.
Yes, we would always take pictures of him. I'd ask him because that's what he did most of the time. Outside of eating, working, he would eat. We go to a restaurant, and he loved for me to, take his picture and post it on Facebook. And he'd say, "Well, how many likes did I get?"
Right.
So we just found it fun for him too.
But I can imagine, like, you probably just thought it was just a normal day, and he had had some like complications before. You were like, oh, it's probably just something flaring up again, and then you're realizing, and also no one's communicating to you either.
No communication whatsoever. And you're right. He did have an appointment Monday for gallbladder issues. So that's what was going through my head, during the whole time.
Oh, this does no justice, but I'm so sorry for that. And I know you've honored Mitch's memory by sharing just about him, because even though I don't know him, I know a little bit about his spirit, and that's been beautiful. And you guys had children?
Yes, we have 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. I have one that lives here, the oldest one close by. My son's in New York, and then I have a daughter in Fort Walton Beach, Florida area, and 2 grandkids, only 2.
Only
And they're
two.
31 and 21, Madison and Tyler, and they live close by as well.
Okay, that's right, because you moved close to this area to be close to them. That's right.
Yes, I did. My daughter was living here
Okay.
within a month of Mitchell's
Wow.
death. Yeah.
And that is a challenge too. I want to, I guess, validate that just to move and meet new people and community. You had been here before though.
Yes, we used to come here quite a bit for visiting, and it was our plan anyway when Mitchell decided to retire. That was, we'd been coming up and making trips and had planned that for retirement. Yeah.
When was there anything that surprised you about grief? I mean, you had some surprises during that whole process, but like, is there anything that you want to share that like surprised you during your grief, good or bad, during that time? Or and you, Mitch has been gone for 7 years.
7 years. Yes.
So anything that's surprised you in regards to your grief?
Well, I don't know if surprise is the word as much as the whole thing is a surprise, but I don't know if that word surprise, it's almost like you go numb.
Yeah. Okay.
You go into like a state of shock, because unless you've gone through anything like that before, you have you're just oblivious to it all. You just kind of pick yourself up. I remember going to Mitchell's truck and driving home. I was in denial. I remember when I called my father, or I take that back. My father called me because my daughter, no one was here at the time. My daughter was in the Valley at the time when she got the call about her daddy, and she came here. But I just remember thinking that Mitch was still going to knock at the door. He always went and picked up our little Starbucks drinks before church. So in my mind, I was still thinking that scenario, and I was dressed for church.
Wow.
And it's just, I think the next thing I did once my daughter got there was I slept. I remember falling asleep. But the whole thing is just, it's almost like your body, here you are, but you're in a different place, like an outer body type thing.
Yeah. And you're right. Surprising is probably not the right lingo. Shocking is probably more. Yeah. And your body's your mind and body's trying to catch up with the reality of what everything happened. So
very traumatizing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you, I know we're moving through your story a little quickly because we have a lot to cover, and I wish we could spend all the time just talking about memories of Mitch and your beautiful family. But was there a time that you felt numb, you felt shocked? When did you start to feel like you were coming back up for air, or have you?
Well, truthfully, I guess it didn't begin to even see for my case, and everyone's different, was probably about the 3rd year, to be truthful with you.
Okay.
For myself, that first year, like I said, I was so traumatized by it. I just decided that's it. I'm leaving. I didn't even go back to the bed that him and I shared. Couldn't sit in the same space in the living room, and didn't want to be in the same area as far as what I could see where we used to eat. Our life, we were living there for 20 years, and we've been married for 43 years. So I just made the decision, which I don't recommend it. They say to wait for at least a year. And I can understand that. In my case, I was up and out of there within that month. But really, I did not feel any positive relief, if you will, until about the 3rd year. There's so much going on during that first year, the preparation and everything.
Yeah.
If you are trying to sell your house, and of course you have financial things that you have to settle, and burial plans and all this other. And then the 2nd year, it all comes to surface as far as, oh, wow, he's gone.
Yeah, because you've finished all the tasks. I remember that. Like
Right.
you're kind of rounding up on all the things that need to be done.
Mhm.
And so then you have space in your mind.
The dust starts
Right,
to settle.
right. To like
Yeah.
all the emotions and the reality of it starts to hit you in that second year.
Yeah.
I agree
And I
with
think
that.
it's also probably the worst, at least for myself, was the second year.
Yeah, I agree with that, Paula. I mean, I had a similar
Mhm.
experience. Yeah, yeah. Too. That second year, everything starts to go. You're like, oh wow, this has really happened, and
Mhm.
so. And then the third year, you said you started feeling some relief, or
Yes, I did. For me, I'm one that has to keep busy. I've always had to keep busy. And right away, I knew being at home was definitely not going to work for me because, you keep taking all those thoughts that happen and they like a video that just keeps playing over and over and over. And all those questions, what about this? What about that? But I happened to go into a little boutique shop here in town, and I was trying on some clothes. They were super nice women, both widows themselves. And I just came out crying. I was trying on clothes and they were being sweet. And next thing I know, the floodwaters just started pouring.
oh,
And I told them I needed a job. I needed something to keep me busy. I was home all the time and that's all I thought about. Next thing I knew, I had a job
awesome.
at the boutique, little part-time job. In time, the woman that I was working for decided she wanted to retire. So I
Mm,
bought it from her. So I did that for a couple of years. It was called The
wow.
Crossing here in New Braunfels. Managed it, and it was a lot of fun. I got to meet it too was kind of like a ministry for me because
Okay.
there were so many widows that were coming in.
Wow.
Because my demographic age group was probably 55 and up.
Okay. Okay.
And, I have a little bit of a sensory where you can almost feel, I can't explain it, but I could almost feel that same sorrow and the deep grief that I had. It almost feel it from another woman
Yeah,
that's going through it.
I
And
understand.
yeah, do you understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
That
you
same.
do. Yeah.
So I would,
You recognize it. You
yeah,
recognize
the
it.
signs are there.
Yeah.
And so, but a business can't stay open. It's all about money in that kind of business.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
got to make that sale. And my heart was leaning in a different direction. That's what took me to Beauty from Ashes.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's wonderful though, Paula. Let's just talk about that for a minute. So, uh, you went in and you connected with some ladies that had
Yeah.
similarities to you, and then you had
Hmm.
a job, and then that
Right.
got you getting out,
Uh-huh.
and then you took over a business. That's
I
huge.
did.
You
I
had
did.
owned a business previously, right?
I had several different ones. I was originally from Harlingen. I had a little tea room, if you will, and
Yeah.
dealt in antiques and that kind of thing. So I was
Okay.
familiar with working with the public. So that part of it was easy. The part that wasn't so easy that made me realize I needed to make the decision of moving on was the behind the scenes of a business like that. You
Okay.
got the paperwork, taxes. And even though I had already been 4 or 5 years in, I still did not have the proper mindset with dealing. It was just so much,
It
you know.
a couple of things in regards to that. One, you tell me if you feel this way. Since becoming a widow, my capacity to handle those kinds of things seems a lot smaller than it
Right.
used to be. I don't know if it's my
Absolutely.
tolerance, but so you feel that way too, like this
Oh,
the
still.
capacity, yeah,
Yeah.
to like all that paperwork and behind the scenes. I mean,
Mhm.
in general, people don't like paperwork and all that,
No,
but yeah,
no,
right. But I just
adding
know
numbers,
that,
paying bills, there was
yeah,
nothing fun about
right.
it.
No, but I know like my capacity used to be a bit bigger to deal with that kind of stuff.
Right.
But do you feel like I know you had to shut your business down, but do you feel like it helped you began to heal and grow in different ways? You were
I
able to
think
connect
so.
with community.
I think that was the biggest thing, because I do like fashion. I work with clothing. I've been in that industry for a long time. I used to manage different stores in a mall when I was living in South Carolina. So I was familiar with it, and I did love it. But the part that I loved was working with the women and making them feel good about what they were wearing.
Oh,
So
that's
that,
awesome.
that's the customer part that you enjoy. But as an owner, unfortunately, somebody's got to take care of the stuff that's behind the scenes.
Right. You can't just always, you can't
I
just
was
always
spending
be
less time with
doing.
the customers and more time either on a computer or dealing with numbers.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's beautiful that you were able to do that in that time of grief. And then it sounds like that opened up the door to going into Beauty from Ashes. Did you meet Lori in the boutique, or how, the founder of Beauty for Ashes, how, did she come into your store? How did that happen?
Well, actually, to be honest with you, before I even took over the business, I was working at Grammage, which is a little wine and cheese shop.
Yeah.
Right. Nice little place. Stephanie is great. And I was in there working, and Marie, one of our other friends that was a widow and has since remarried, was in there. She was waiting on someone. And not that I was intentionally listening, but I heard her mention the area code 956, which was mine from the Harbinger area. And we got to talking. Because we had that in common. And next thing I know, she's telling me about Beauty from Ashes. So to be honest, that's how it kind of got started.
Okay.
And I did get involved, not quite as much at that time because I was still fairly new as being a widow. And like you were saying, I could only take so much of it. Sometimes I would go to the meetings and then I might skip some.
Because it just gets heavy. We were talking before we got on a little bit, and just talking about how sometimes, even though we love helping people and being there, and it's a good community across the board, just sometimes we have our own grief and it's heavy, and then talking to others, it gets, and you want to care for everybody, it gets really heavy. So
it can be.
It can be, for sure. And that's why, I'm sure you and Lori, to take breathers, right?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
We practice what Lori calls box breathing, and I highly recommend it.
I'm very familiar. Yes. It's definitely a way to get in touch with your body and calm down some anxiety. Right. To visualize the breathing in and holding, and then breathing out, and then holding. And breathing in.
Yes, I actually practiced it before I joined you.
That's really good. But it's because we need it in everyday life too.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about Beauty from Ashes. So Lori is the founder, but you are a facilitator helping her with her program. So tell us about it.
Lori Bonning, her story is completely different from mine. She had 2 children at the time. It took place back in 2017. She's much younger. Most widows now, I think the statistics, if you will, women, the average woman now starts at the age of 59, becoming a widow. And she was even younger than that. And like I said, she had the 2 children. She was looking for something that, yes, grief support, but with grief support, it's like several grief scenarios, if you will, grouped together. She needed something that was more one-on-one, that worked specifically with widows, because it is a different scenario from a widower or someone that's even lost a child. It's just completely different. She couldn't find anything, so she actually started I think she told me it was like a sip and chat. It started off very small, and here we are. We have bloomed into this wonderful ministry. She's even created a curriculum. We're trying to expand. And we have begun, we were doing I was telling you about a Zoom meeting we had with Her name is Angie from a church there in Georgia.
Yeah.
So she's going to take this curriculum and she is going to become a facilitator at her church.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to use, because I've been through the Beauty for Ashes course, and Lori has developed a curriculum that helps widows through their grief. And so she's developed that into like a, would you call it a kit or a
it's
development?
It's like there's different layers of it. We do start off by having a Zoom meeting where we talk to the one that will do the facilitating. We have a little routine that we go through. We have different workbooks. And Lori's done a wonderful job. I mean, she's really poured her heart and lots of her time into this. And we just about wrapped it up. And anyway, we do this by going out and presenting it to churches or anybody else that might be interested in starting their own little widow ministry group.
That's amazing. That is truly amazing, because so many, I've heard that, because I've done a lot of different, met up with widows across the world through the military a lot of times. And a lot of times that is the number one thing I hear is like, well, we don't really have a specific group for us. And then another important part of Beauty for Masters is that it is faith-based. So talk to me a little bit about what are some of the things that Beauty for Ashes shares with their widows, and it's specifically the population is just for widows. So talk to me a little bit about that, Paula.
We usually get together about once a month, the Beauty from Ashes, and usually most of it is trying to it's almost like a counseling in some way, but we try to educate them. It's like you had asked me, surprising, because you don't know, unless you've been a widow, you don't know what a widow goes through. So when we get together, like with Beauty from Ashes, there are several of us, and we usually go through the different scenarios or the different stages of grief, the anger, the denial. There's so many facets of grief. And you come together, we listen to each other. It's what we do when we go around. Each one kind of tells a little bit about their husband, what they've gone through, and we share. But I think the biggest thing for me is it's very comforting to be with other widows and hear their stories and what they're going through, because then you can understand yourself. Hey, this is normal. You know, I'm not,
alone.
You know, I don't feel, I'm not crazy because I go to HEB and walk in there and can't buy groceries because I don't, you know what I'm saying? There's so many things. And
or cry at a candy bar or something.
Right, yes. I always tell everybody honestly, it took me 4 times to actually purchase something. I've had other widows tell me that they go in to HEB, they get up to maybe buy something to look through what they don't even know what they're going to eat. You know, they don't know where to begin, and they wind up going. I've had them call me from the car in the parking lot. You know, I need help. I need to go back in. And that's the first step. You know, just give yourself a lot of grace. But that's what Beauty from Ashes is about.
It's a community where it sounds like people can call if they need to, if they're having a hard moment. But because I've been involved and gone, like we have we even have social events, right?
We do.
Yeah, like Bunko, or going to see different interesting venues. I think we've even had karaoke. So it's just bringing widows together in a social way, but also there's another part of it that Lori has developed that course, and it's a 7-week course.
Right. It's a little spin-off from Beauty from Ashes. It's kind of the core of it all, the 7-week, which is we're fixing to wrap up one now. And we'll begin another one in June. And it just goes through all the steps, the secondary losses that we go through, the things that you're your brain goes through, those feelings of anger, those feelings of guilt.
Yeah.
We get to, if you will, the very core of it all. And I think that's very important, because even now for myself, 7 years in, I'm learning things even now that has helped me grow. And that's really, you talk about the social, there are several social groups for widows, but we are more of an emotional, we help you see the hope. We help you go through that, because you need to go through it. You can't go over it, and you can't push it away somewhere. It's important to go through that. And that's what we try to do. And we're with you all the way. And we want you to know, not just through us, but through Christ, that healing is going to help you come through that grief.
And I think that's important to note, that Beauty from Ashes gives you a healing foundation.
Absolutely.
And shows how, even when you struggle, that Christ is still there. And I know personally, coming together for the meetings, not outside of the course, but just the monthly meetings, you have other widows that share their stories, and then you, as a facilitator, and Lori, they walk through what you might be going through, what you might be experiencing, and how to deal with that in a positive manner. So it's been really good for me too. And it's in person here locally in New Braunfels, but it's expanding and going to other churches.
Yes. And that's what you were talking about, our fundraiser. We have one fundraiser a year, and it's a 5K. You can come, I always say you can either walk, run, or crawl.
Wonderful, yeah.
And definitely bring your dog or your pets, or, your child in a stroller, whatever. It takes place at Landa Park. You can go through the Athlete Guild. It's not too late to sign up for that. And Landa Park is a beautiful park. Really pretty. It's very beautiful. I believe, it starts at 7:30, but all the proceeds go directly into Beauty from Ashes, and those funds go toward this curriculum that I am telling you about. And I can't tell you how important it is. And I know a lot of people don't realize this, but every 2 minutes, a woman becomes a widow.
Wow, I didn't know that statistic, but
it's
that's powerful.
Every 2 minutes.
It's June 6th, so it's Beauty from Ashes. It's your only fundraiser for the year.
Yes, it is. At the time, it's our, like I said, our 1 year. We do take donations, publicly, privately, either way, which you can also do through our website. We're also on Facebook. You can contact myself. You can contact Lori, volunteers even. If there's something, we have one lady that you were talking about, Bunko, early. She herself is not a widow. Her sister is a widow, but she has that heart. And she hosts Bunko for us once a month. You've been there.
Yeah. Great
food, great fun. She's got a lovely home, and we just have a good time.
It is a wonderful time just to, I think it's beautiful because we're coming together, and it's just enjoying each other's time. Not necessarily talking about, our widowhood, but it's just being there together. And Vicki she does a wonderful job.
She does a wonderful job. Yeah, she's the hostess with the mostest.
She is. She has great 5 a.m. runs too.
Yeah.
But let's go back to the 5K is on June 6th in New Braunfels.
7:30.
At 7:30. I will post a link to that when this goes out, along with Beauty for Ashes website that can get connected with you or Lori. And it's just, I just want you to talk a little bit more in regards to, why do you think it's important that women not walk through grief alone, or wives? Why do you think it's so important to have something like Beauty from Ashes?
It's very important. Unfortunately, a lot of widows, there was a time where women didn't talk about being a widow. A lot of people have this viewpoint that we're clad in black and, just cry and, woe, it's me kind of thing. It's the modern woman now, we still have to move on. So as far as what we are doing next is we have to figure out how to move forward. And that's part of what Beauty from Ashes does, help us move forward.
It does.
Yeah, it helps us to move forward. And ask me the question one more time.
It was why do you think it's so important that they don't walk it alone?
Yeah.
Because obviously with this organization, they're not going to walk it alone. They have resources, but why is that so important?
It's because of the isolation.
Yeah.
A lot of widows tend to isolate themselves. I have one woman that I've never talked to, but we send text. She doesn't really go anywhere or do anything. Isolation is not good. If you isolate yourself and keep within your own bubble, you can't grow at all. You almost become stagnant, not only mentally, but physically as well. It's key to stay active. It's key to find a hobby, do like I did, do volunteer work. I started out at one place and went over to Hope Hospice, and I love volunteer work. You get to meet other people, and that helps you too socially. You develop friendships, and you can go out and do things. And it's just important, because if you don't, you're going to stay stuck in that grief, and you don't want to do that. That's the worst thing for yourself, physically and mentally.
Right. That's so true. Thank you, Paula. Yeah, I know. It's kind of obvious, but I just wanted to put out there, because some people might be like, well, so what? Yeah, there's lots of widows. What's the big deal? But I just wanted us to refocus and make sure that is why we're talking about this, because it is so important that as a widow, you do have community. You have a place that you feel seen, a place that you can connect, and you don't isolate. Because like you talked about earlier, what happens when you isolate is our brain begins to play that video over and over again. And then it's just not healthy, and you stay stuck, you stay unhappy, and you're not carried forward. You're just kind of stuck there. And we were talking earlier that sometimes we still have times that we get stuck in that, but because we have a wonderful resource like Beauty from Ashes, and the people that we've met there, and the tools that Beauty from Ashes has given us, we're able to go, you know what? Hey, I recognize what I'm doing. I need to step out of this and move forward. So I think it's so important, and that's why I wanted you to be on today, so you can share about the 5K to fundraise, and just what Beauty from Ashes does. And then it's important that Beauty from Ashes circles around and redirects you to who the true healer is, which is Jesus. And even in our ups and downs, we need to remember that. But it gives us people and day-to-day life, I think, that shows us like there are people struggling with the same thing, similar things that you are. And because sometimes if you just go, oh, Jesus will fix that, Jesus will fix it, then they stay stuck still. So if we provide them tools and community, it makes such a huge difference. So thank you.
You mentioned the word tools too. Can I just briefly mention the workshops? That's what the workshops are about. As widows, we don't have that man in the house. Sometimes we talk about cyber scams. Women become prone to things now that they are, no longer have anyone to, bounce things off of as far as that goes. There's usually, my husband would say, no, you don't want to do that. That's a scam. Learning about tools. I remember the first time that I had a flat tire, I didn't know how to, I do know how to pump my own gas, but I had never changed a tire. So we also do workshops, but I think another thing that real quick I want to mention that I failed to mention, we listen. We're very good listeners. I think that that's very important. I have been to some of these grief counseling, and a lot of times they're teaching you and talking, but the whole time you feel like you're just going to burst if you yourself can't say something, and have someone just listen to what you're going through. I think that's very important. And I think that Beauty from Ashes is very, very good at listening.
I agree, Paula. Lori and you are good about giving tools, meaning like emotional tools, or even more direct, like actually using tools, but through the workshops. But most importantly, you do hold space for people to speak and share what they're going through. Because I know in my early days of grief, I just wanted to scream from the rooftops, like, why is everyone still doing stuff? I
actually wish there was a place, and you went on an amazing trip. I suggest that we all go to a top of a mountain somewhere and just scream and scream and scream until we can't scream anymore.
Right. Just like, stop. Why is everyone still doing things? Right. Like the world has stopped people. We need to stop. But thank you so much for being here today, Paula. And let's just go back over. It's Beauty from Ashes.
Beauty from Ashes Ministry.com.
Okay. And fundraiser is coming up. The 5K. It's June 6th.
7:30, Landa Park.
And you often, I know we haven't touched on it, but I just went to in February the Valentine's Day coffee. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Are you referring to the tea?
The tea.
Tea. Sometimes we do co-host with that. It's a nice. There's several widows that show up with that for once a month, and sometimes Lori will talk about Beauty from Ashes. And put it out there in the community, which we hope everybody will spread the word, because it is a growing demographic.
Yeah. It's one of those places you're glad to be here, but wish you didn't belong.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. But thank you so much. I think what stands out most is that grief doesn't just take from us. It also shapes us into people who are able to sit like Paula and Lori with others in their pain and listen to them in a way that is real and meaningful. And helps them move forward and helps them build foundations like Beauty from Ashes to be have resources out there. If anyone out there is listening and you're in this kind of space, please reach out to Beauty from Ashes or me, and I will connect you, because you're not alone.
No, absolutely not.
And if you're local here in New Braunfels, I encourage you to check out Beauty from Ashes 5K, June 6th. You can come whether you walk, you run, or you just want to show up, because it does matter.
It does.
It does. Well, I will include all the details for their website, Beauty from Ashes website, and the 5K in either the Facebook connections or out there on YouTube. I'll make sure that it's available so you can
get connected. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that.
But thank you for being here, Paula, and just for listening and helping others and taking your pain and moving it into purpose.
Absolutely. Anytime. I appreciate you having me.
Please, just everyone out there, continue to move forward, even when it's hard. And this has been Carried Forward. Have a wonderful day and see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching and listening to Military Broadcast Radio on Roku TV. If you missed today's episode, the podcast will be available on
and all major platforms shortly after we go off the air. We're here for you, not for us, giving veterans a voice. This is Military Broadcast Radio.